You're listening to the Muddling Through podcast.
Well, welcome back, Ben.
Great to be back.
You are the first repeat guest. How do you feel?
Well, pretty great, because I'm hoping that the listeners can hear me this time.
Audio has been a constant challenge on this here podcast.
Yeah, it was a little depressing last time I got home. I'm like, I can't wait to hear it. And I hear Gordon. That's about it. But no, it was a lot of fun last time, so I figured I'd come back and, muddle through a bit more.
Not being able to hear the guests kind of defeats the purpose of the podcast.
So I do apologize in advance. There might be a little bit of echo coming through. We're trying a dual microphone setup for the first time. We have a little MacGyver microphone blockers set up, so hopefully there's not too much feedback. But
some nice,
three-ring binders. Because we have a high budget.
All the budget you could ever want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
how's life treating you, Ben?
Life is busy, as usual, but I suppose it's better than being bored.
Yeah. You're, that's fair.
Yeah, so.
Good to keep busy.
Working full-time still, constantly rotating through shows. This week it's Christmas Carol, so that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
My first Christmas Carol, actually.
Really?
I've never even seen the performance live, so this will be truly my first Christmas Carol.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen it either. Not live theater, anyway.
Mm-hmm. I saw the Disney version, and that's it. So my Bob Cratchit will be based off of Mickey Mouse.
Perfect. I can't ask for anything more than that.
They said study for the role, so I did.
Oh boy!
She's gonna be really disappointed when she hears me doing Mickey Mouse as Bob Cratchit.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so that was good. Just closed Evil Dead the musical, which you came to see.
That was a good time.
Yeah, it was rock and roll and slashing up demons. What were your thoughts on the production?
I thought it was pretty fun. Very, very small cast, but I think that is in keeping with the source material, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's never more than 6 people in the shot, even in the movie, so.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually really impressed with the production value. Like, all the stuff you guys had going on stage and the
Me too.
Effects. Like, I was kind of disappointed that you weren't using red dye in the splash zone. I feel like, oh man, they're just doing water.
I know. We actually started throwing in red dye the second week.
Yeah.
So I was covered in blood after the hand chop scene. Yeah. I was just all down my face and all of my clothes. And we had 2-show day, and I come off stage and I'm just covered in blood. I'm like, how am I going to do this tonight when I'm not supposed to be, killing people yet? So, yeah.
I mean, when you have limited
quick jaunt to the washing machine.
Yeah.
But it came out, and we were pretty happy about that, because there were no backup costumes. So that's rough.
When you have, a show that involves that much, gore, I guess. Well, it's not gore exactly. But when you have a show that's supposed to have the amount of blood that's in the show,
right?
You can't, you need, 8 costumes.
Yeah, luckily I did get the Act 2 costume change, so that was good. So, cut off the sleeves, put the bondage harness on, we're good to go.
You're really having a hard time getting the gun back in the holster there.
It was not fitted correctly, and a challenge. So the good thing about that show is we can just kind of make a bit out of anything, and the other actors can be like, oh really, you suck, and come put it in my back. I'm like, oh, let me help you out with that, let me give you a hand.
You're supposed to be killing us, but you're obviously doing a terrible job.
Well, that's just my life. But yeah, so that was fun. Now we're on to slightly more serious matters with show where I'm supposed to be poor and struggling to survive. Gotta bring the reality somewhat. So real life. Yeah, I'll tell my boss I need a raise. Anyway, that's actually something we were talking about earlier. We were talking about how we've come across our jobs in our lives.
Yeah, pretty much all of them have been through people we know.
Yeah, and that was actually a similarity that we share, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Started working as a grocery bagger, when I was 16. Well, my entire family, minus my parents, worked at the same Market Basket in Lee, and somehow got my way in, even though I was the world's worst employee. Still kind of am. Not much changed, but I tricked my boss into thinking I do some good stuff. I don't think she listens to this, so we're good.
Look really productive when she's around.
The difference is now I'm an actor.
Oh, okay. Classically trained. I can look like a model employee if I choose.
It was really just because I started wearing a tie when I came in. Yeah, so after that, one of my friends got me a job as a lifeguard, and then one of my friends got me a job as a newspaper delivery boy for the college newspaper. It was a bit more glamour involved. I was driving my car instead of bike, so it's a little different when you're driving a Mustang delivering papers than when you're driving a bicycle delivering papers.
Just like dropping off stacks, or
yeah, we'd get stacks to like 50, and they were separated halfway. Take off 25, throw it in a building.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up doing the Dover-Portsmouth route. Okay. So it's actually a nice break because I'd have class from, let's say, like 9 to 12:30. Start the route at 1, go until 3, and just drive around Portsmouth, Dover, hitting all the stops, and then I'd go back for another class, dance co at night. So it was always a long day, but it was a really nice break just get off campus for a while.
Yeah.
And get paid for it. So
being able to drive around is like kind of like the thing you want to be able to do.
I think it kind of kept me sane too, because driving I've always found pretty therapeutic. So I just class sucked. All right, time to just drive.
Go for a drive.
Yeah, so that was nice. And then after I graduated, I was kind of I just did theater for the summer, which I was lucky enough to get hired at the same theater for 3 shows in a row. So I didn't really have to do too much else for money because my student loans hadn't kicked in at that point, which was a great time in my life, which I'd love to revisit soon. But yeah, so my mom works at the hospital in Dover and was talking to one of the registrars out front, and they said, "Oh, your son just graduated. Love to get them in here." So I ended up applying for the job, got it. And I just hit my first year there, and other than the paper job, it's the longest job I've ever held on to, so I'm going to call that a win. So last month, October 22nd, I believe, was my anniversary there, and it's been pretty good so far, no complaints.
You don't get tired of getting harassed by the nurses?
It's not the nurses I worry about, it's the old people. All the old ladies come in and they say, "Oh, I'm going to check in with the eye candy." True story. When you're the only man in the department, you're the hottest man in the department. The facts.
By default.
By default. No contest needed.
I mean, you're no slouch.
Oh. I say, "Sorry, ladies, I'm taken." Too bad I can't get tips.
That'd be a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah, so I may end up in food service. You flirt, you get paid for it.
Perfect.
Sounds like a pretty good job to me.
Yeah, not bad.
But anyway, that's the story of your employment history, and how did you get your jobs?
So, first job I got, I worked at JCPenney's. It was pretty. I feel like most people know that at this point. It's like I worked at Penny's for 7 years. God.
We've all been there.
No, so I worked at Penny's for 7 years. I got that job because my dad and my sister worked there for years before that.
Mm-hmm.
After that, well, while I was working there, I'm like really anxious about money, like in a major way. So I was like feeling like things were feeling tight. Moved out of the house and felt like I needed to supplement, the Penny's income. Yeah. Because even though you're like kind of working full time, like I got benefits and all that.
Which is nice.
It is, pretty handy. It's what you want. But no, so I was feeling a bit pinched. So I'm like, all right, I'll get a second job, and got the cafe server / barista job at Barnes & Noble. Worked there for 2.5-3 years, something like that. And kept those two jobs up until 2016, and then I got the job at SLR. And then before I got the job at, I think 2011, I did a brief stint at GameStop over the Christmas season.
Now you're saying that was the only one that you didn't have a connection to.
Yes, yeah. So all the others, either like someone specifically told me to get the job there, or I knew somebody who like. So my dad worked at Barnes & Noble as well.
Oh, did he?
and that's how I found out about the opening. But how I actually got the job was my friend Brian, who been on the podcast. I think he was on episode 2 or 3.
Oh, great.
And so when I initially applied, the hiring manager was like, so we need someone who's like pretty, high energy, outgoing, able to keep up, and I'm really not much of that kind of person. Like I'm pretty low key and like to take things kind of slow. And she's like, it seems like you'd be more suited for a stockroom position, like receiving kind of thing. I'm like, I mean, that's what I do at Penny's, so you're not wrong. She's like, all right, well, we'll keep you on file if you want to get me your references, because for some reason, I hadn't put any down.
Oh, jeez.
But,
that's trouble.
Yeah, it's what I do. And, but then I was like, wait a second, Brian works in the cafe. Like, I'm literally applying for a cafe position. Like, what am I doing? So I called her. I'm like, can I put Brian down as a reference? She's like, yeah, funny story. I was actually talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I want that guy to work for me. I was like, oh, all right.
Well, there's
sure.
your in.
And there I was. That's
awesome.
And, so that was actually, I liked working at Barnes & Noble because I felt like I was around family in a way. Because, like, you're cool with your coworkers for the most part.
Right.
But, like, I never, like, I had friends at JCPenney's, but I never felt like I fit in. And I definitely felt like I fit in at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
It just felt, I'm my people.
Yeah.
I'm home now.
That's like super important for a work environment.
Yeah.
Honestly, because if you don't love the people you're working with, then there's no reason to be there.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually I agree with you. This is the first job that I felt like I can fit in. Mm-hmm. And I stopped moving. I was hired as a per diem, so basically I could float between any position.
Yeah.
Well, not position, but any of the few different places that we staff.
Okay.
But I ended up getting trained up in this one place, which is a central registration, which even then it was, we were transitioning to that. And then it was just because I needed hours, so my boss threw me up there. Mm-hmm. And I ended up hooking really well with the people. And for the last, honestly, 4 months, I haven't worked anywhere else.
Yeah.
We just all fit in. We became a family, and it's pretty nice, actually. I'm like really sad if I have to go somewhere else. Or,
like, oh, dang, you gotta hang out with new people.
And I keep talking about like, oh, I need a better job. I gotta go, but I'm like, I don't know what I would do now because like I wouldn't feel comfortable anywhere else. Yeah. But I actually find pretty funny. There's two things I actually find really funny about this. You seem to hold on to jobs really well. Mm-hmm. I cannot hold on to a job to save my life. And it's not because I get fired. I want to make that decision right now.
Yeah.
I just get bored really easily. So I'm like, I hate this job. It sucks. But it never does. I have a hard time staying in one place for some reason.
Yeah.
But this is the first job I've been able to like proudly stay for over a year. And I think the reason I hung on to the newspaper job was for so long is because it didn't really give me a chance to get bored. I wasn't sitting for one place for too long. But I can't really argue with the pay I get here. And the people are great.
Yeah.
And I also find it funny that the place that you didn't have a long tenure at was the place that you applied for on your own. You didn't know someone there. It's kind of weird. Like,
it's interesting how that works out.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you mention that because I get really bored too, but I had the advantage of doing something different basically every 6 months, like within the places that I was working.
That is nice.
So when I first started at Penny's, I was a recovery associate, which basically means I fold stuff all day.
Okay.
So like I wasn't register trained, like none of that. I think I was 16 or whatever. And just, making sure everything stays tight.
Yeah. That's a great way to break into the workforce, though.
Yeah, for sure. You get to hang out with people like after close, which is when most of us do like our uninterrupted socializing, shall we say.
Of course.
And then after about a year of that, I was like, you know what? I want more hours. I want to be more versatile. I'll get register trained. And so I did that for a bit. And then after that, I think I got transitioned to like the pricing and visual team. So we're doing like price changes. Well, we had this whole thing where like our company restructured and we got a new CEO and they're like, okay, we're going to be doing branding. And like,
branding.
And that's
big, large hand gesture that no one else could see, but we're enjoying it.
Branding.
We're not actors, right?
I haven't been paid to act for this.
Anyway, continue. Can't all be a Rochester celebrity.
Excellent. No, so every month it was a new color. That like the whole store had to be, decorated in this color.
How interesting.
And so the last day of the month, we like completely tear everything apart and do like an entire, like we're up until like, I don't remember, we weren't up super late. I think we'd start at like 8 or 9 because that's when the store closed. And then we'd be up until like 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. Just like completely revamping all I don't know what's going on with the audio. Sometimes it really spikes and sometimes it's just like super flat.
That's okay. Sorry, continue.
Anyway.
It's just how much we lean in.
So, it was me and, like 3 or 4 other people, and you basically had to redecorate, just the entire store.
Ooh, sounds like a mighty challenge.
It was like spot decorations.
Okay.
So, like, you had to do colors on the pillars, and like, I think we had the pricing team do the actual, like, signs, and we just flip them. And so, like, those are, like, we would have month-long deals on specific items. And so those had to have the month color on them.
Yep.
Honestly, and then you have these big, like, posters, like, multi-part posters that had to get changed as well. And so, like, those things you could often... Well, no, those were a real bitch. I take that back. So there was one time we were up late. We were basically like, this is the last thing we had to do.
Yep.
And our coworker James, who's like this small, he might be like half Chinese. I don't really remember. But he's like super fastidious and had to have things just right. And he's up on this ladder trying to put these like big, like 2 foot by 2 foot squares into this frame. It's already up there, and they keep popping out because like they're not truly flat. They're like poster board essentially. So he's trying to like slide it in and keep it like it's like you put it in up here and it pops out on the side. You put it in on the side, it pops out down the bottom. And,
that's the worst.
Just like struggling and just like trying to get this all in. And I'm like, James, as much fun as this is, we don't have all night. He didn't talk to me for a week.
I was going to say, I bet he'll love that one.
He was not impressed.
Oh, boy.
But no, so
the best fun is at your coworker's expense. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and my friend Kaylee, who was also working as a team chief, died. So it was
God. Anything for a laugh.
So, yeah, did a bit of that, and then finally I did like shoes for a bit. Sold shoes.
That's right. I remember seeing you in shoes because we'd come in and we'd look for you in different departments, and they're like, "Oh, he works in shoes now." Oh,
it's like, why would Gordon work in shoes? He doesn't even have shoes.
I think it's funny because every single time we'd go in to find you, you worked in a different department because that's how like rare we were at the mall. Yeah. So like, once every 6 months, it's like, he works at the register now. I'm like, no, he works in like shoes now. Huh. And it never even clicked that you were switching every like few months. Yeah. But that's so funny.
Yeah, and then basically the same story at Barnes & Noble as well. Like, I did Cafe for a while, and then they started training me in receiving, and then mostly switched over to receiving properly. I was doing both at one point, and then did mostly receiving and covered breaks in the cafe or covered shifts or whatever.
Okay.
And then for SLR, the shift has basically been, covering different shops. That's been the only variation really. And that's been enough to keep me relatively entertained.
That's good. If there's enough variation in that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like you're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Every day. But,
I feel that. That's kind of the wall I've hit.
Yeah.
I'm caught between a rock and a hard place because I really like what I do and I like the people I do it with. It is very mundane. Mm-hmm. And it is, you check in people. Yeah. Sometimes you get a co-payment. And then you go on lunch break.
Yeah.
And then you go home. So I did kind of shoot myself in the foot there. If I wanted to start rotating and going to different places, I could. I could make it super exciting if I just wanted to work in the ER full time for a while.
Sure.
This is the place I can most reliably get good first shift. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've been really enjoying, which is why I've been hesitant to give it up.
Right.
It is a challenge, though. This is a long stretch for me to do the same thing. So I may branch out for a couple weeks, just to be okay, I had it really good, I'm going back. But,
let's see what I've been missing.
Right? But then everyone would miss me, and they're like, why are you leaving? It's tough.
So you can enjoy me when I come back.
Yeah, exactly. We did have the added curveball of being transitioned over to completely new computer software, so we had to take classes for about 2 months, and but that's been 2 weeks now, and I'm already pretty proficient with it. So I still need to ask the occasional question. Mm-hmm. Help. Anyone? Is anyone free? I need assistance. But, it's good. I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like we've been fed this ideal of loving your job.
Mm-hmm.
Being something, not exactly something to aspire to, but something that's expected.
Right.
To work at something that you love doing. And if you do what you're passionate about, potentially you can make a living at it. But I feel like if you can do a job that doesn't make you want to blow your brains out, you can find...
That's kind of the dream.
If you can do that...
Maybe I'll make it someday. No, scratch that. No, I do have that balance, which is why I like what I do, because obviously I love my career. I'm a performer.
Yeah.
Every time I'm on stage is wonderful.
Right.
The problem is, in Seacoast, you cannot survive on performing alone.
No.
And I haven't achieved that level of notoriety that people are calling me for gigs in big cities, or for movie gigs. If I got into film, that'd probably be a different story. Mm-hmm. I could work enough gigs, film gigs on the side, to do that.
Or,
exactly.
That sort of thing.
But it's non-existent on the Seacoast, and the problem is I'm hesitant to move anywhere else because I like where I am, and I'd have a hard time fitting in another state.
What makes you say that?
There's a lot of things that make me say that.
Right.
Well, the first part is I picked the wrong career because I don't like cities.
Okay.
I find them cramped. I grew up in, you've seen my house. It's in the middle of nowhere. Just, for the listeners who've never seen my house, basically the middle of nowhere. Surrounded by trees. We had 2 houses, or 1 house on each side of us, and then just woods.
Yeah.
And we had about 2.5 acres of woods.
It's pretty well wooded there.
It was pretty woody. So there was an empty lot next to us that got filled in. So now there's 3 houses. It's not too bad, but it's still really quiet.
Yeah.
And it's even more quiet now because my sister's moving away. But it's just me and my mom.
Yeah.
In the next 3 days. It's going to be me and my mom. So I grew up in a secluded place. I like my privacy.
Yeah.
I don't much care for other people in my space.
Sure.
So living in a cramped apartment building with 20 floors above me, 20 floors below me, and then the same thing to either side doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me personally. No. And another, which I don't want to get into too much, is just I really like the politics of this area more than I would per se like living in New York.
Right.
I find that they have a lot of constricting policies that it's just not my speed.
Yeah. Anything I've heard about New York, not necessarily politics-wise, you hear a lot of nutty stuff, but the thing that I hear most often about New York is how weirdly intrusive their legal system is.
Yes.
Like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I feel like I'm constantly hearing about, like, wait, you can't do what in New York?
Exactly. It's incredibly... Some of the stuff they do is backwards, and it's not just New York. I mean, I just find a lot of things that I look at and I go, it doesn't make much sense to me. I'm good in the state of the free, you know? Yeah. I'm like, New Hampshire, live free or die. I like it.
Yeah.
If I have to move to a city for a while, I'll make it work. I would like to end up here. So I have trouble saying I'm going to move somewhere and then knowing full well I'm going to come back. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's hard.
But that other battle is like, I do want to try to make it bigger than the Opera House or like wherever I'm at. Because I really enjoy the people. It's the same trap I'm falling into at work. I really like the people I'm working with and its stability.
Right.
And I have that now. But I don't think I'm getting all I could be getting out of it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's going to be a chat that I have, especially my girlfriend's going to play a big part of that when she graduates school, because we're going to want to stick together wherever we go. And I don't know how she feels about moving to the city or things like that. We haven't really talked about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, conversation for... I don't know.
We're 4 months in.
You're pretty fresh, so it's like, that's not really it. We'll have that conversation later.
Like, we know we want to live together. We don't know where. So, that'll be, by the time she gets out of school, it'll be almost a year at that point, and then probably start looking at places after that. Yeah. Which I am excited about. But
does she want to do, like, bigger stuff, or is she pretty content with the local scene?
Would like to break into the industry any way she can. She has had one professional gig, which is where we met. So she's pretty excited to keep going on with it and see where it takes her, which I'm also fine with. I'd like to go. If our careers go on the up and up, I'll escalate a bit, you know? I'll move to a bigger place where the work is, see if, test the water, as you will, you know, maybe like a year out there. If it works out, awesome. Stay for a bit longer. If it doesn't work out, come back to where I know I can get the work.
Yeah.
And I kind of gave up on being famous a long time ago. But I'd like one touring gig under my belt. I think that's like my goal.
Yeah.
At least. And if not that, then maybe like at least working at Disney World or something. At least so I don't feel like a complete failed actor. But no, and that's the thing. It's like I really like what I'm doing. I like the people I'm doing it with. I get stable work. It's nice.
Yeah.
But
you feel like you could be more.
I would hate to feel like I didn't do all that I could.
Right.
And I think that's my biggest fear in life in general, is just not like living up to the, you know, what could be.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I'm scared of heights.
I guess heart.
That too. But yeah, so let's raise the mood a little bit, because I feel like I'm getting a little too existentially.
I mean, that's kind of been the flavor of the podcast so far.
Well, that's good.
It's been, you know, fairly serious. I think, so I had one with one of my old roommates, Kevin, which was pretty light in tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we basically chatted pop culture and such for, you know, an hour or whatever. And then the one with you and Chris was probably the lightest one.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, I think having multiple people is a good time. But like we don't get a deep conversation going.
Right, and that is typically what you expect from this podcast, which is fun. And no, I mean, I definitely enjoy the deep conversations. I just don't want to, you know, depress the listeners with my sob stories too much.
Right.
But I depress everyone just by looking at me, so...
Everybody loves a good sob story, right?
Of course. I have many.
I have all the sob stories.
My life.
You don't even know.
It all started when I was born.
My mother tried.
But yeah,
I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting how, like, you know, you don't really think about potential when you're younger.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, oh, I just want to do things that I like doing.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter much, what it accomplishes for me later in life. People are like, no, you need to get your education and you need to, apply yourself. You're not living up to your potential. And you're like, what is that?
Well, that's potential. And I'm like, oh, that person is on Broadway at 19 and I'm 24. Okay, now I'm starting to see what they meant. I'm like, maybe I should have gone to more dance classes. Taking it seriously once in a while. That being said, though, I don't regret any of the choices I've made. Like, I was thinking about it, and, all the choices I made in my life have led up to where I am now. And I have a good job. I'm working, doing what I love. I have, great girlfriend who I never would have met otherwise. I can't complain. Got great friends. I'm here on the podcast. All of the choices have led right back to this podcast. So, how can you complain with that?
Yes.
But I mean, I was trying to think, and I always used to think of choices that I made, then I would fixate on like certain points and be like, I wish I could change that moment. And I guess, and I've thought of it before, but really today it just kind of hit home and said, everything I've done in my life has built up to this.
Right.
And like, I'm not unhappy with where I am.
Yeah.
But that being said, where I am now, I know that I can take that to another level and apply myself in success.
You feel like you're on a path.
Exactly.
Rather than feeling stuck in your decisions.
Which is a big, big turnaround from what I was at last year, or like even the year before that. And especially being in school, I just felt completely stuck. Right. A lot of people say go to school. Personally, I don't think school was for me. Yeah. But I have to give it credit for I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be in musical theater. I didn't do that until I was in college.
Right.
I never would have started singing again. I wouldn't be dancing where I am.
So
I wouldn't have met half the people I know now, including my girlfriend. So I'm very grateful for that.
Right. So even if you're not necessarily going to get your money's worth from the degree, you got a lot out of the programs you're able to be involved with,
right,
and the people that you met along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I feel like I missed out on by not going to college. I'm pretty happy to not have student loans.
That is a big benefit. I will say that.
To not have any student loans. But yeah, I often feel like I didn't completely come out of my shell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the butterfly analogy.
Yeah.
Where you're just in a cocoon. And if you don't fully emerge, you're just a caterpillar forever.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people kind of go through the metamorphosis process. I feel like I'm mixing something up here, but
no. I think you're absolutely right, and it can help a lot of people in that way. Hey, it's never too late. I mean, you could take 2 years of your life and go to NHTI. I mean, it's not going to be the party life that you think you might pick on, but I didn't even party that much in college. It was not all it's cracked up to be. And I go back now sometimes to visit friends. I'm like, really? I did this? I know, and I'm like, I just want to be in bed by 10:30. I'm such a grandpa. I come downstairs in the red plaid bathrobe and the red plaid pajama bottoms and the slippers, and
hey, okay.
My sister would be like, "Oh, look, Grandpa's come down." I'm like, "Get off my lawn." It's exactly how I feel, but it's hilarious. Yeah, but no, I totally feel that. Feel like I can miss something. But again, when you come back to that point, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah.
If you had done that. But there's always room to improve in the future. And, you still could make that choice, and you wouldn't have to even go into that far debt, depending on what you did. Yeah. Actually, I heard something pretty interesting the other day. Apparently, Chipotle, I heard this through another podcast, actually. Mm-hmm. Chipotle is offering to pay for its workers' tuition.
Interesting.
Certain colleges, of course, certain programs. But, they'll pay for...
something similar.
I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So here are these businesses, offering potential solutions to the student loan crisis. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is pretty amazing.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Honestly, corporations, especially food service corporations, get a really bad rap. But if they do that for their employees,
I really like hearing stuff really cool. That, though. It makes me put my faith back in the business owners a little bit.
Sure. Now, if we could just get the colleges to stop hiking tuition.
Yeah. Well, me and my libertarian views are going to start rattling off
sure.
solutions here. Get get the government money out of it. But I won't turn this into that podcast.
No.
Because I want your ratings to stay up.
My olive 14 listeners.
I'll see if I can boost those numbers by at least 2. Yeah, we love you here at Muddling Through Podcast. Like and subscribe. Hit share, maybe. If it's not too much trouble. Please. We're begging you.
So broke.
There we go. That's shameless begging for the night. Out of the way. That's always got to be a portion on the show.
Yeah.
Should just open up with the shameless begging.
You guys really appreciate it, you guys.
Subscribe to my Patreon.
Tip me on PayPal. I accept Bitcoin.
Venmo me $5. If anyone pays you in Bitcoin, you've made it. For 5 minutes until it goes down. Yep. Anyway. Now that we're done ripping on things.
Exactly.
That I know nothing about.
Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like... So I've been thinking about this recently. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. A lot of Joe Rogan, a lot of fellow named Jocko Willink. Started listening to this Russell Brand.
Russell Brand, yep.
Has a podcast, and it's like really. I think I've enjoyed listening to him on Joe Rogan more than I've enjoyed listening to him on his other podcasts because he's the interviewer in this other podcast, so he doesn't talk as much about
Gotcha.
He's figured out. Like he still does. And he's a little woo woo out there for my taste, like
yeah.
But like he's still fairly entertaining. But like I feel like listening to Joe Rogan especially, and I feel like I'm always on the cusp of expanding my consciousness of like being able to think about things outside of myself.
Yeah.
Like stepping into a new avenue of understanding. Like I feel like I'm just like on the cusp of it.
I like that.
Like I can feel it, and then I just like sink back into the like the morass of like every day. Just like
I know exactly what you feel. Oh my god, I've gone through that so many times. Listening to podcasts too.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a couple different ones at all times. Some like political ones, some like economic ones. I turned you onto the personal development one.
Yeah.
And I always feel like when I'm in the hype of it, I'm like, yeah, I know all this stuff. I'm always on my game. And I stop listening for a while. And I just kind of like lose it and deflate back into my normal, let's say, lazy self.
Sure.
But I don't feel that drive to improve my mind anymore. But I totally know that feeling because I always right there, like I got to apply this more, and then it'll be second nature, and then I just kind of stop.
Yeah.
So
you kind of need a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like the part of the problem I think is I tend to listen to podcasts while I'm driving or working.
Yeah, me too. Exactly.
And like what the thing you'd really want is like you would listen to one podcast, and you would sit down with a notebook and be like, okay, here are my takeaways from the podcast. Like just writing stuff down.
That's pretty interesting.
It's like you would specifically listen to a podcast like intentionally rather than just ancillarily.
Yeah.
And so you're writing stuff down and you're like, okay, so I listened to this one podcast at the beginning of the week, and here are the things that I'm going to try to apply in my life this week. Like at the rate that I consume podcasts, that's not really like I listen to like 18 podcasts a week.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not really a viable process for the way that I consume podcasts. But I feel like if you did that, you would become a much more well-rounded person, generally. Like, you almost have to pick, like, if you're just listening, you almost have to pick out, like, one thing, like, oh, that sounds interesting, I think I'm going to try to, like, that, I'm going to do that one thing. Like, I'm going to do that for a week and see if I can't integrate that somehow.
Well, that's even interesting. Like, maybe listen to the more entertaining ones. Like, I would listen to, like, Drunks and Dragons or something like that. No one of those D&D or anything game-related, like, while I'm... excuse me. while I'm working or driving, something like that. And then maybe even just pick one, just, like, sit down. Like, just today I'm going to sit down and take notes. And, I mean, they say that even writing something down with a pen and paper makes you remember it more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be a good goal, too, is just, like, picking, like, I'm going to revisit that one and write that down, while you're listening to stuff.
Just, like, favorite it and
Yeah.
save it for later.
So that might not even be a bad idea. Just, like, pick one a week.
Yeah.
Might expand your horizons a bit more and faster than you think it would. But
I mean, like, I'll say this for podcasts, like, it's got me doing this.
Right.
You know, like, I probably would never have, well, I won't say that. It probably would have taken me a lot longer to do a podcast if I wasn't listening to, I'll say Joe Rogan and Jocko Willink specifically, because Joe Rogan, basically, his thing was, I just like talking to people.
yeah.
And talking to people has made me a better listener, and I feel more empathetic. And I was like, oh, that sounds like something that I could really use. You know, more, you know, I could use a little more empathy for other people in my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, having an excuse to have people come and have like a one-on-one chat. And I feel like I've always enjoyed having like a pretty low-key conversation. Like, not even necessarily doing anything, but just like sitting down and talking to people. Like, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So the podcast seems like a perfect opportunity for that.
No, certainly.
Getting into shape is like another thing that I probably would never have done if I hadn't been listening to podcasts and be like,
Right.
listen, you should probably get into shape because, you know, it's good for you somehow. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah. Hear that on the news.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like,
Yeah.
doing that is like, probably would never done that.
No, absolutely. I agree. I mean, most of my social growth in the past, in fact, all of my social growth in the past 2 years, I can attribute directly to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I was listening to The Art of Charm, which I turned you on to.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know me through high school. I was like a pretty outgoing guy.
Yeah.
I hit college and I kind of shut down.
Okay.
I hit like some pretty bad depression waves after, especially like my first knee injury. I couldn't do anything.
Okay.
I couldn't dance at all. I was just watching my classes and my body was just like, no, you suck. So I did that and I kind of like almost had some confidence with girls coming out of high school. Completely lost it.
Yeah.
I didn't end up dating at all until I was a junior in college. I mean, that's when I had my first girlfriend. And I got into this podcast after I graduated and like a couple bad experiences.
Sure.
And I was like, kind of losing all of my steam and I had no idea what I was doing.
Sure.
And I get onto these and I just kind of hooked to it and I found the drive and I wasn't even like taking notes, but I listened to them so many times that I like ingrained them in my head. And then,
you could almost play them back.
yeah, exactly. So I would like go into these social situations. It was so much more than just like dating too. It was like all about body language and seeing people's intentions, which I really liked. And I can still go out and apply that. And like, you know, I'm talking to someone who I'm not quite sure about, you know, like, I'll turn my body a little bit to the sideways, like kind of give them like the side look, you know, and it's like a defensive posture almost, but you can see when people are like uncomfortable or when they're comfortable. And that's kind of nice. So you can kind of gauge what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. Like, if I shift this way, are they going to respond negatively? Or like, if I say this, what happens? So I think that's kind of cool. And I've been able to almost transition that into my everyday life. And it's really improved my social skills. I enjoy being outgoing again. I enjoy talking to women now for the first time ever. And I don't feel like they're going to all just walk away immediately. And I don't feel like I'm worthless. Especially in like that sense that or worth less than, you know, every woman I see. So that was nice and definitely got me to where I am, which is why I recommend those podcasts to pretty much anyone who is struggling. They did take quite a few of them off because I believe there was a split with the management. So some of them were taken off of Spotify at least, and I think online. But those are already in my memory. I found some new ones. But yeah, honestly, self-help podcasts, can't recommend them enough because they kind of revolutionized my life. And even after that, that's when I started even becoming a better actor too, because I got my empathy back, I'd say, and that's what really kind of sets me apart. Personally, I'd say. And I'm not to say that I'm better than anyone in the area, but it's like kind of how I get my drive. But because I couldn't do that 2 years ago. I was not acting for real. Or even trying. I never would have called myself an actor. And I never would have even ventured out to say that I could act. I was just, I can dance and I can sing, kind of. And then I really put myself out there and started putting myself in that position became uncomfortable or got comfortable being uncomfortable in that sense.
Right.
And now I'm working as an actor, and I'm pretty excited about it. So they can do more than just get you women.
Yeah, no, it's like you kind of need a leg up sometimes where you don't necessarily, like, it's not necessarily intuitive for a lot of people,
right?
And you know, it's not a class taught in school. You know, how to comport yourself.
Ah, yes. Stand tall, shoulders back.
Shoulders back. Speak from the diaphragm.
Feet apart, butt out, and walk.
Yeah, they don't teach you courses on confidence or charisma.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I feel like so many people. I mean, this is coming from someone who still hasn't applied the lessons.
That's alright, we're getting you there.
Yeah, no, we'll work on that. But no, so, like, you know, it's something that's lost to people. You know, they just don't have an avenue a lot of times to, like, get that education, and it seems daunting.
Yeah.
You know, because
it absolutely was, even for me, because
like,
I was that person.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. So, like, it's really such a huge help that there are people out there that are like, no, like, we know how this works, and we can teach it to you.
Yeah, and they eased you into it, too.
Yeah.
So they're like, they don't just, like, say, go out and flirt with 50 girls and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. It's like, you kind of learn how to have, like, fun conversation, and then you learn how to basically believe in yourself.
Right.
Which changed my life almost, because I went from saying, I can't act, to, I'm going to get better at this, to, I can act. You know, and even that just said, that was mostly internal. Right. And that was a switch I flipped, and when I stopped believing people who said that I was bad, because I did get that, you know? As soon as you put yourself out there, you're going to have people spit in your face. I did run into that for about a year, and I pushed through it, and I'm glad I did, because there's definitely some times where I was thinking, I can't do this anymore, like, I suck, and it's nothing to get to me. But now, you know, happy with where I am. Yeah. And I'm not getting bad reviews anymore, so that's good. You gotta stick with it.
I feel like would it make sense to say that there's no growth without suffering?
Absolutely. So,
like, you kind of have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position and push through it.
Because that's how you're going to grow. If you're staying in your comfort zone every day, where's the room for expansion? You need to push out just a little bit. Yeah. You know, I mean, if it's too uncomfortable, you don't push out too far. I wouldn't say pull back. Yeah. Definitely keep it there. Learn how to be comfortable with that. And then you have to push out in the other direction just a little bit. Yeah. And then you can just keep going until you got your wingspan. Right. You definitely have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it sounds counterintuitive, but you need to find something to push your comfort zone, or you will not grow. And that's just the sad truth of it. Now, that's not to say that you need to jump into something full force. Right. Be like, I'm going to quit my job and go take acting classes, and I'm going to I'm going to move down to New York City with no training, audition for every Broadway show. No one's going to say that. You know, like, maybe start with taking one acting class, or like joining an improv group or something. Yeah. You know, that's like just coming from an actor's standpoint. But this can come from anything. You want to dance, go take a ballroom dancing class, or like swing or something like that. Go take like an adult ballet class if you're really interested. That's putting yourself out there. I couldn't even do that as a dancer for a while. Yeah, no. But, you know, it could be as much as like joining a book club. You know, if like you're passionate about that, you want to learn more about like good authors, or you want to even just have conversation with other book lovers, that's a good place to start. Yeah. And that's not too over the top. That's not, or you can start your own podcast, because you're kind of just talking to yourself some of the times. But no, I mean, yeah, you could start with all these little things, but it's definitely important to be pushing yourself in the direction you want to be. And actually, I want to be, like, what's something I want to do personally? For personal growth, I want to be more stable with my financials. I want to get myself in a direction that eventually I can retire or be comfortable. I started my 403B last week. Okay. Now, it wasn't big. My company matches up to $100, which is really nice. I can afford about $25 a paycheck right now. So that's really not bad. I'm netting about, $200 a month. Sure. It's small. Obviously, when I get more well off, I can go up to that 100. And there's a lot of other financial steps I want to take. I want to start investing more. I want to set up, other kinds of accounts. There's a good book I'm reading that I actually need to get into it more. It's I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, and they actually cover that in The Art of Charm, which is how I got turned on to it. And it's a very good book. I haven't read all the way through, but he does talk about investing and cutting costs mercilessly on the things that you don't like. But he has a very interesting way of doing it. It's not just like, you don't need that extra soy latte. It's, if you want that soy latte, go get it. But if you don't want this other thing, don't get it.
Right.
And he's a very interesting way of approaching things. So, I think it's... Where was I going with this? Yeah, you need to start small and then push out. And people grow at different rates.
Yeah.
So, if it takes you a year, it took me a year, at least, to get comfortable with going out. And I still never even got to the point where I was going out and talking to random people and, going to a bar and opening on 6 different girls at once.
Sure.
I never got to that point, but I did get to the point where I was comfortable going around the bar saying hi to everyone, looking people in the eye when I came in, and then just kind of being the center of attention. That was a big step for me because before I'd be that guy corner of the bar clutching my drink. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. And now I'm just walking into the bar, head high, looking at everyone, nonverbal. How you doing? Come say hi. Yeah. And I'll start conversations with people next to me. Just throw out a joke.
Sure.
But you can do anything with a smile. You can probably do it. Even if it's the fake professional smile. Just try to push yourself through it. That's a good way. Is just force yourself to say hi to someone new.
Yeah.
Or one of the ones they talk about is social freedom exercise. And again, I'm bouncing from different points of to personal growth. This is for social situations. You want to be more comfortable in social situations? Go around to everyone at a party or even you've seen a store. Ask for a high five.
Yeah.
High fives get people in the mood. Be like, hey man, high five. I've done that. I've gone to a bar, I've gone to parties, out on the street, walking home, even coming from the bar. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Some kid, drunk stumbling into me is like, hey, you got a butt or something? I'm like, no, man, I don't smoke, but you have a great night. High five. Boom, high five. Gets everyone amped and in the mood. It's really funny. It's actually a good way to make friends. Some people like that high energy guy. They bring the mood up.
Oh, for sure.
So nobody wants to come talk to that guy clutching his drink, which is why I wanted to not be that guy anymore.
That's absolutely right.
But yeah, so it all starts with small steps. Joining a book club, high five and some random dude or some random girl. That's fine too.
Yeah.
That's even preferred. Girls like high fives too. We don't discriminate here at Muddling Through Podcast.
Sure.
We like to high five all. So come through for a free high five. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on personal growth.
Yeah.
You just got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Sure. I think, there's always room for improvement.
I think so. And that's kind of we got to challenge ourselves to realize that. And comfort is good.
Yeah.
Complacency is not.
No.
And I think that's the main takeaway. Even if you grow in something small.
Right.
Or you can even take a break from this one thing. Just make sure you don't regress. Be like, I want to grow in this other thing this week. That's fine. Yeah. You're still growing. That's personal. Yeah. And that's a win. So.
And you kind of have to take stock of the different aspects of your life, personal relationships or your job or your hobbies, and decide. You have to admit what you want. If you can't admit what you want, you're never going to get it.
That is so true.
How it goes. So, you have to admit what you want, and then you have to figure out what the steps are that you need to take to actually accomplish those things. And if you go avenue by avenue and decide on those things and figure out your roadmap, you can basically accomplish what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you can have the life you want if you're willing to make the sacrifices necessary.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just one of those things you have to keep reminding yourself of.
Yeah. And going off of that too, even writing it down, putting it on paper can make you feel better. Having a plan.
Yeah. 100%.
So you get even better, having a reward system with it. Be like, if I do this, I'm going to do this for myself.
Right.
It's I'm going to buy that drink. Or, if it's something really big, I'm going to get that boat.
Yeah.
I don't know. It helps. Certain little things can help different people.
Yeah.
So,
and like, it doesn't even have to be like, oh, I hit a major milestone. It's like, no, I made a single step towards the thing that I wanted.
Right.
So, like, I have a built-in minor reward. Like, you want to make sure that you're keeping yourself, and not motivated. Like, motivation's not, like, I guess incentivized.
It's fleeting at best.
You don't want to rely on motivation.
Yeah.
Discipline's better, but incentivized discipline is, like,
probably the best.
Primo. So, yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
just be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. You gotta make it fun, because if it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it.
It's true.
But the more like baby steps that you can accomplish in between all the big milestones, that's going to make it seem a lot less daunting.
Right.
Because I accomplished 5 baby steps for something that's really big.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel really good about that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really hard for me to go through 4 huge milestones with nothing in between. And I feel like it's like the rock climbing course. You've been to the fair, you've seen the big rock climbing walls.
Yeah.
So there's the easy side, which is definitely like there's quite a few rocks in between from you to the buzzer. And then there's like the speed running side, which there's like 10 rocks total, and then you get like $50 at the top, which is good. So there's a big reward for that one.
Yeah.
But you need to like do it in such a way, and I'm short, I can't even reach it.
Yeah.
So people like gotta stretch and go get it. And that's a lot more daunting, especially for someone my size, than the small wall. But you know what? I'm going to feel just as accomplished by finishing the small wall.
Right.
Because I still got to the top. I hit that buzzer. Maybe like a little less accomplished because I can get the $50. But yeah, so I'm like, I'll feel a little worse because I can get the $50. But hey, if I put a 50 at the top of that and then go up and grab it, I still get that $50.
I'll think about it myself. So go get it.
Or I'm going to be like, I'm going to go get a chocolate bar if I get to the top of that. Yeah, I'll do that. So it can just breaking it up into steps can help.
And like, so you want to figure out what your end goal is, but you want to make sure that the milestones are like, so you want an end goal that's an ideal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you only visualize the end goal, you're not going to move towards it because it's going to be too daunting. So you want to make like major milestones, and then in between milestones, you want to make steps.
Right.
Like, and just like, yeah. I mean, basically that. So like,
and I mean, the real important thing to remember is it's all fluid too, because as we said multiple times, there's always room for personal growth. Mm-hmm. So when you get to that major end goal, you can make that a milestone, and you could say, I'm going to set another milestone.
Right.
And I
can have to.
And you do have to. But that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
We never really, because if you're stagnant, what's the point?
Like if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward.
Exactly. So regressing is not what we shoot for here, at least not what I shoot for. I never want to be at that point in my life again, because I definitely regressed for a few years. And I that is one thing I will say that I do regret, is I wasn't constantly moving my life forward. But again, it put me where I am today because I got on that path when I did. So it's not the end of the world. Just make sure it's not too long. Don't make okay, I failed a test at 21 and here I am 30 and then I can't move anything with my life. I'm still working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I don't say anything about McDonald's workers. I appreciate you all. But
you give me my food when I need it.
Right. No, it's great. I mean, like, there's nothing bad about that. If that's your goal, you want to work there, awesome. But if you want to move up, if you want to be the manager, that can be an end goal too.
Right.
You can take that anywhere. So it's just figuring out, because you can always be more. It's just realizing what you want and then making that your next milestone. Because, the end goal is stability. Mm-hmm. The end goal is really whatever people want their end goal to be.
Right. It's like fulfillment and meaning.
Right.
Is what people are ultimately searching for. And that's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
But, my mom always said you want to learn something new every day, and I think that kind of applies. Yes, if I'm not learning anything new, I'm not growing my mind.
Sure.
And even if it's not per day, maybe I can learn something new every week.
Yeah. That's potentially it's certainly an easier milestone to hit.
Yeah.
But
maybe I can get a raise at work every year, or something like that. So there's a lot. You can apply that mindset to pretty much anything.
Sure.
But there's always the only option is up, and don't let yourself think that you're gonna go down, because if you start believing that you're gonna go down, you're gonna go down.
Yeah. And that's not to say that if you're on a path and it's not working out, you shouldn't reassess.
Correct.
And move laterally.
I am always a big proponent of lateral moves. There's this game I used to play when I was growing up. I forgot the name of it. But basically, there's this one level where you'd have to climb up a ladder, and the ladder would end, and you could pick between two ladders, and you'd have to, keep scaling up the ladders by moving laterally. You couldn't exactly see to the top, but you'd have to kind of guess. And if you went up to that ladder and there was nothing to connect to, you just have to go back down, lateral move again, and keep going. But what I learned from that is it's not a problem to take a lateral move to gain momentum.
Right.
And I've even talked to people who are like, well, I can't take this job because it's not an upward movement. I'm not getting any more money for it. It's the same thing I'm doing here, but I've been doing this job for 3 years. I'm more comfortable here. I can't move up, but it's fine. But you don't know what you could be doing at this new job. Maybe it's the same pay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same job. But if it's at a different place and it's a fresh start, you're not ingrained in these people's memory as that person. They'll be like, okay, this person works hard. Maybe they do deserve something more.
And perhaps there's a greater potential for advancement at a different company.
Exactly.
Rather than the one you're already at.
And if you get to the top of that ladder and there's no room, that's fine. You can laterally move again.
Yeah.
It's not... Nothing's, static or, finite.
Yeah.
But I even found that in theater. I started working at a one theater that I got really comfortable at. They offered me jobs every year. In fact, they've still offered me jobs. They haven't offered me something I've wanted to take because I know that I can get different work now. But I was the dancer there. I was featured dancer for 3 years, and that was great because that's all I did. But then the next year, they offered me featured dancer. And then this theater offered me an acting role.
Right.
And I said, I got to take it. And the pay was not even that much better for even, say, the one show. If I'd done one show here, it would have been less than one show here.
Yeah.
But I got into that show, and then I got more shows.
Right.
And it only went up from there. And, that kind of started my career spiraling upward. But I had to make that lateral move because it's a local theater. It's not like I went from local theater to a touring company or local theater to Broadway.
Right.
I wasn't looking for that.
Yeah.
I started small, and I'm still relatively small.
Yeah.
But I'm feel like I'm approaching more the limit now than I would have been staying at that theater.
Right.
So I think that's really important takeaway too. Is lateral moves are not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you just need a change of pace too, and sometimes that can pay off really well.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I mean, where are you now compared to where you were 5 years ago, even?
Yeah, no, it's pretty different. I mean, the major thing that I'll say for SLR that, I can't say for the other two is, I can work full-time there and not have to work a second job, which is, I was working a lot.
Yeah, I remember.
Back-to-back shifts and just never being home. And, I wasn't miserable at the time. I just didn't have... I feel like I have less free time now, weirdly enough.
Well, see, now you're getting back into the second job thing.
Dummy that I am.
You can cut that if that was supposed to be hidden knowledge, but...
But no, being able to basically just work 40 hours a week and just work a first shift job is huge in terms of just in mental headspace, not having to
absolutely
constantly.
Where am I going today?
Right, exactly, and being able to hang out with your friends when you feel like it, or just relaxing in the evening and not having anywhere to be, and I don't know, just it's been any concerns or qualms about the job itself or the hours or whatever, just the stability of it is huge.
which is super nice.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that is you have full-time experience now. You know what to expect.
Yeah.
So say a lateral move did come up, you wouldn't be afraid to take that.
Right.
Because you could start the same rate.
Yeah.
And then probably be room for advancement there. Not saying that anything's come up for Gordon. Please don't fire him. But I'm just saying, it's like, once you get that experience, you had to take that first leap.
Yeah.
And now that you've had that, you know that you can do it again, and it's probably not going to be for the worse, it's probably going to be for the better. The problem I have with taking jobs is when they offer them lower rates and same hours or fewer hours, which is not stable. And I don't want to lose my stability. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm at with that. Yeah. But anyway, this is starting to run into a longer podcast, which is not bad. I mean, I think we're getting some good stuff on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we both have early morning day jobs, though.
Yeah.
We got a lot of good stuff out there tonight. Yeah. So I guess moral of the story is push your boundaries.
Moving forward.
Yeah. Eyes on the prize is a good thing, but I mean, don't be afraid to take that little step or that sideways step that's going to really help you.
Set yourself a few milestones in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, push out in one direction. If that's not fun, stay there. Push out a little bit in the other direction. Personal growth is always better than stagnation in my book.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you so much for having me, Gordon, because this is...
really glad we finally got to do this.
Yeah, and it's nice coming back and doing something a little more...
more low-key.
Yeah, low-key and a little more serious subject matter, I'd say, because it's fun joking around, but we never did get into that D&D subject, but that's okay.
We'll have to save that for the next time.
We'll do that next time. I'm totally okay with that. So I hope you guys liked the podcast with the 2 mics. Maybe we'll be able to get that more on the show.
I'll see about getting another one, and hopefully we'll be able to sort out the audio issue.
So
all right.
Thank you, Gordon, and thank you, listeners.
Have a good night, everybody.